Hello and good morning, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show Weekend Special. On the weekend special, we start normally 9 a.m. and we end at 10 a.m. And our goal is to ensure that you have your favorite education show Mondays all through to Sunday. Every day of the week, name it, you'll find us there. And of course, on the weekend special, we have a different time for the show. We have 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for Saturdays, and of course 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. It's the Good Morning Education Show. Tell everyone out there that the show is on, and we're so excited to have you on the show today. My name is Rotimi Eitai, and I like to say that we're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and of course the entire world. And we always get excited when we see our tribe members ready to share the morning show with us. And they do this by getting on board, saying hello, telling us where they're streaming from. So if you're online right now, please tell us who you are. Tell us your name, tell us your location where you're streaming from. And please, we also welcome you to join in the conversation of the day. Do not hesitate to ask questions if you do have questions. And of course, make your contributions. We will show the contributions. And guess what? If it's your first time on the show, we have the bell of blessing for you. And of course, everyone will have a great time. On the Good Morning Education Show, we have a mantra. And that mantra is what I'm always excited to say at the beginning, during the show, and of course at the end. The mantra says it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. And sometimes on the weekend, we don't just say it's always a great morning. Because of the time, we also say it's always a great day. And of course, for you, you can personalize it. It's always a great time. It's always a great moment. It's always a great period on the Good Morning Education Show. On the show, we talk about news, headlines within and around the world of education. We talk about topical issues. We talk about upcoming events in the education world. And we take a step further to discuss a topical issue and the subject matter of the day. And this is also going to happen. And we are joined by fantastic people, fantastic human beings, fantastic experts, and fantastic educators slash stakeholders who share their views, expertise, who share their understanding on the subject matter so that we have a broad-based perspective. We learn together, we share together. Guess what? We also grow together. My name, once again, is Rotimi Eitai, and let me welcome you officially to the show. I'm bringing up one of our analysts who's on standby already. I think she's going to win the first timer, or not first timer, the early bird analyst for the year. So let's hope by December she keeps up to it. So let's welcome Bimfolo Falodun. Good morning. Why are you laughing?
Good morning. I wasn't expecting that to be me, really. But good morning. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to the Good Morning Education Show awards show in December. It's great to be on the show this morning.
Yes. So once you announce to the others, I'm sure it will become competitive. The winner might get
They're
iPhone
listening.
13.
Ah, no. Well, if I'm winning, I wouldn't want iPhone 13.
Whatever. 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 So let's welcome Wisdom Ubani. I think she's the first time caller. I mean, when I say caller, first timer. So we'll ring a bell of Wisdom. Thank you for joining us on the show. Good morning, Wisdom. And it's a great day on the Good Morning Education Show. We have a fantastic day ahead. But if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you, are there things you'd like to say, headlines? Are there news items? Are there upcoming events you want to draw attention to?
Yeah, one upcoming event that I would say and stress and keep repeating is the National Spelling Bee competition coming up uh, uh, later in the year slash early next year. But the important thing is that registration is closing in less than 30 days, and parents, schools, um, caregivers, or if you just know a child that is between the ages of 5 and 16, get them registered for that competition. competition. You really, really want the children to showcase what they know, to showcase their level of. You want to be proud of them. You want to show them off. So for me, I say that the spelling bee is for that child you love. So, and I'm sure you love the children, all the children around you. So get them registered and get them practicing for the spelling bee. That would be major news from me for now.
Thank you so much. And of course, we also have some events coming up. I will be speaking um, on a platform today, much later in the day, most likely. You can catch me up at the Blueprint Lion 3.0, and it's going to happen, starting from today. It started yesterday, actually. So today is the second day, and we have morning session 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and evening session 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Please try to catch up. And of course, we also have the Creative Teaching Innovative Learning workshop powered by the Institute for National Transformation. I spoke there yesterday, and today is day 2, starting by 4 p.m. You could catch these details also on my platform. That's on my social media platform. And you can get the details, the flyers out there as well. And then, of course, like you mentioned, we have the spelling bee, and Nafi has become a twin on the show. All right. So, without wasting much time, we'll get started on today's conversation. And we have a topic. It says, "Where's Adam's apple?" So, I'll ask you to give us an introduction and welcome and give us a perspective on the show. Over to you, Finn.
Um, where is Adam's apple? I also want to find out where Adam's apple is. But my interpretation of the topic is that we're asking, where is your voice? When others are standing to be counted, where are you? When there is an issue that you're supposed to contribute to, when your contribution is needed, when your voice is needed to be heard, where are you? That's my interpretation, and that's what I believe that. Well, that for me is what the so apart from the obvious of where's Adam's apple, and then we can begin to trace back to the Garden of Eden and all of that. But for me, that is the interpretation. What happened to your voice? Where is your voice when it matters? Is your voice being heard in the right place? Are you contributing to what you should be contributing to, or are you contributing appropriately to what you should be contributing to? That's what it is for me.
All right. Thank you for that. You've added flavor to the conversation of the day, saying, "Where is your voice?" saying, "Where is Adam's apple?" And I'm going to also tweak and twist it a bit, because when we're looking at Adam's apple, we're really talking about the conceptual understanding of what we reference as Adam's apple. A lot of us know that the apple in a contextual manner can also be representing good and evil. And we're talking about how do we get to know and identify what makes right, what makes wrong, especially uh, for the for the audience, educators, education, business owners. You know, is there a definition to rightness? Is rightness something that has been altered? Where exactly is Adam's apple? And I'm going to start by asking me a question, which of course I'm asking myself, I'm asking everyone who will be listening to us today. And when we speak about what is right, how do we then identify right or rightness, especially in the world of political correctness, when things are trying to be politically correct? How do we establish that? Because it seems like there's a blood line, there's a blood defined way of saying what is right and what is wrong for practitioners in the education space. What exactly is right? We hear so many times that people advocate for things. Sometimes people do not advocate for things. I've even heard you, Finn, also tackle some conversational issues and news items, that borders on certain line of, you know, is either freedom of expression, power of choice. Over to you, Finn.
What is right? Generally, we know what is right. Especially there are some things that there are no two ways about it. We know that it's not right to take some what belongs to somebody else. We know it's not right to bear false witness against somebody else. It doesn't matter religion. It doesn't matter color. It doesn't matter creed. It doesn't matter location. These are some things that are obviously very correct, that are obviously right or wrong, and society has come to define that. Look, you cause others pain when you take stuff that belongs to them, or all of these things. We know that it's honorable to read and pass your exams, not cutting corners and cheating. We know all of these things are the right things. But when it comes to maybe opinion, people's opinion, their belief systems, their mode of operation, or of uh, doing certain things, then we begin to come across things like political correctness, the correctness there. And then we're now we're in an era now where a lot of things are beginning to get permissive. So we're saying things like, oh, it really doesn't, the form of expression, the way people express themselves. Meanwhile, we know that the way this person is expressing themselves is, it's there's something warped about it, but we just want to feel, um, we want to feel like we embrace everything, we embrace all, we're open minded. There's nothing wrong with being open minded, but where wrong is wrong, we need to call it wrong and say, look, this is not right. There is no time that it will ever, that it should, I won't say it will never, but I would say it should never get to any point where we begin to excuse students for cheating in exams, for instance. We should not get to a point where we begin to try to find some nice ways to butter up a teacher who beats a child to the point where maybe the child is fainting, or gives the child a knock on the head. Or there is the part of discipline, there is the part of consequences for misactions. But there are things that we shouldn't now begin to say, well, it could have been that. No, it's straight up wrong, and it's wrong. And when it is right, it's right. When it comes to political correctness, I think it's also just trying to be, to give room for, if today I say this particular thing is wrong, if I do it tomorrow, then it comes back to me that, but you condemned this yesterday. So if today I'm being politically right about something, tomorrow I could have a wriggle room to say, okay, well, I didn't actually say it was wrong. I didn't actually say it was right. I just said it's left to the person to determine what they want to do. But wrong, we know is wrong. Right, we know is right. So where there is the in between, I think at that point is where we should be employing uh, decency. Even decency itself has come under a lot of, there's lots of definitions for it. So what somebody says is decent, and another person feels like, oh, it's indecent. But what we should, where we have those bloodlines, we should consider the other person and think, what action or what harm is my action, will my action be having on the other person or on the other people? That's what I think about this, where we want to stay in the middle and just be safe.
Thank you very much. And that's quite interesting that you were able to bring it out from the angle of public perception. And of course, you were also able to paint it in terms of the values behind subject matter. Of course, if I was to play devil advocate, I would actually tell you that are you forgetting some of these philosophical statements like the end justifies the means? Have you forgotten sometimes in the case of preservation, there's also something called selective truth? What about in the place of national interest? Does good remain good? So sometimes there are contextual issues that can be raised or that can bring uh, some things up. I'm sure you know when we say, well, some things are called collateral damage. There are times that we are making provision to write off some things. So they are kind of dispensable, or better still, in other climes, you call them expendable. But then when we talk about Adam's apple, let's get a bit into what you shared earlier, which is your voice. We know what biological anatomy refers to as the Adam apple, which is more visible in men. But this time around, we're not talking about the Garden of Eden, neither are we talking about the human anatomy. We're talking about the consciousness of the voice. It seems that a lot of times we are having more of echoes than voice. We are not seeing distinctiveness in human beings, in the regulators, in the administrators, in the practitioners out there. How can we get our voices to be heard and to be distinct? Better question, how do we find our voice? Do we have a voice? I'd like to ask you, Finn.
Yes, everybody has a voice. Everybody has a voice, and everybody's voice is distinct. But that's the biological aspect of voice, of the audible voice. There are people who have voices that are not audible, and even biologically, we can't hear them speak, but we can read them. We can, from their gestures, we can infer what they mean. Maybe some of them draw fantastically. So we have an insight into the soul, into what they really want to say. But finding one's voice, I would say that finding your voice comes from that place of knowing who you are, of knowing your identity. Because what your voice does for you is help you amplify who you are. What you do with your voice is saying, look, I don't I don't stand for cruelty to children. But if at no time I make it uh, um, I don't make it obvious at any time. I don't speak it out. I don't act it out. I don't behave it. I don't, it's just within me. I know that, oh, I love children. I don't want anything to harm them. I don't want anything to hurt them. It stays within me. Finding your voice comes from knowing who you are, from identifying who you are, knowing your identity and saying, oh, this is what I stand for. And that's where now the figurative voice comes in. So when we say, where's your voice? Or when are you going to lend your voice? We're saying, what stance are you taking on this? Who are you when it comes to issues like this? What's your opinion when it comes to issues like this? That's exactly what we're asking for. So in finding your voice, it may not be something that happens overnight. It may involve taking tests, personality tests, temperament tests, and saying, so there are some people that say, well, I don't really know who I am. I don't know if I'm an introvert or an extrovert. Sometimes I believe I'm an extrovert. Sometimes I think I'm an introvert. There are tests you can take to help you find where exactly along the divide you fall. And then you can pin it that, yes, I know that I have always had a flair for stuff like this, or I know I have always desired to play in areas like this, or being visible in certain places, but I just could not put, I can't really put a name to it. I can't really put a tag to it. I can't really explain it that this is what I want to do, or this is what I support, or this is what I don't support. Being able to go through those tests, being able to identify that, oh, this is my person, this is my identity, would help individuals in finding their voices.
Thank you so much for that. And I'm sure those who are joining us and those who will be watching the play will be getting a lot of wisdom from your conversation and also your unique views, And we're talking about Adam's apple. And one of the things that I would like also to stress is that um, a lot of people sometimes feel like, um, well, they are not being heard, right? They are not being, how do you put it, valued. But I understand that a critical element in finding your voice is not just to think about the sound or the loudness of such voice or the things that you say. I know that one key thing is for you to even articulate and identify the people listening to you. What's the profile of that audience? Let's even know if they're the right kind of audience you should be speaking to. Some people have not found their audience. And in finding your voice, I think one of the things you need to understand is if you don't have the right audience, you equally cannot say that you found your voice because you're just going to be making noise. It's just going to be noise and not news. How can people begin to take into perspective this audience profiling, this audience analysis, this finding their audience?
Okay, so I think finding your audience also comes from finding your voice. Because if I'm not sure what my voice is and I'm not sure who I should be speaking to or who I should be speaking with, if I don't know where I stand, then I don't know who I should be standing with and who I should not be standing with. I'm not if I'm not standing with you, I'm not exactly standing against you. It's just that we just don't stand together. uh, I might be indifferent, but in identifying our audience, in identifying who we should be speaking to, is really it's embedded in finding that place where we should be. So, for example, if somebody knows that what they are more called for, what they are called to, is maybe fighting human rights, they're really against trafficking of people. They're against child molestation. They're against all of those things that that are against human rights, and they really want to fight for people. It should be very wrong for them, or it would be misplaced. It should be a misplacement of the voice if they go and stand before an audience of chefs, for example, who what they are banding together to do is to serve people better cuisines. What they want, what they are about is the flair of serving of the food, is the flair of the plating, is seeing the look on people's faces when they bite into their food. You have an audience, but it's the wrong audience. So in picking our audience, we need to be very clear about our message, be very clear about what we stand for, and then we will be able to identify our audience when we see them.
Okay. And of course, sometimes there are pertinent issues and things that we should be hearing. I discussed some things on some platforms, especially yesterday. And I told them, I said, we must also understand that a major problem that we must be dealing with education is not the things that gives us concerns and worries, because those are things that exist. We should more and more be concerned about the things that do not exist. They're as much important, and also they affect the overall thing as much as what you see. The principle of half bread is better than none can still work with some things that we see. There are major things, and the same thing with some kind of voices where some people keep waiting and keep waiting. But I think that it is safe to say that the more you wait trying to find your voice, the least likely you will find that voice. The least likely, if at all you find it, that you will use that voice. The least likely, if at all you use it, you will leverage on it. Which brings us to the issue of procrastination. We postpone sometimes our growth and development as educators. We postpone our growth and development in the education sector because sometimes it seems like we like to romance our current situation. And it sometimes, I'm sure you've heard me say this a lot of times. Why should it be that we are recycling the same old conversation? It sometimes is not the best when there are a lot of things that we need to, move on, but we just want to circle around that mountain continuously. What are your thoughts on this, please?
Okay, I think for me, the reason will be that we're afraid of we're afraid of stepping out and being who we can be. There are many people, many educators who have ideas, but because those ideas are not according to status quo, they feel, oh, if I do this, who will stand with me? They don't want to go against the constituted authority. They just feel, look, it's safe for me to just stay in this place where that's the playing ground and the field for everybody. So let's just stay there. And the more we stay there, the more we recycle the conversation. But if somebody, okay, permit me to use this example. I was at a training where you spoke to teachers and you talked about pink hair, about the ladies wearing pink hair. And I could see the response in the room. It was like, pink hair. Why would you even put a teacher and pink hair together? Like, what? Those two things don't mix. But I have seen educators who have gone out of their way to, well, not gone out of their way, but expressed themselves as themselves in ways that are not conventional to this is how it's always been. And their impact has been a lot. So I imagine that a teacher walks into class and her hair is pink. First of all, it's a conversation starter. The kids are curious. They would ask questions. Some of them would want to feel. Can I touch it? Can I say, why did you pick the color pink? And from there, the teacher doesn't even have to go straight up to say, oh, this is the reason I picked the color pink. Take a guess. You get their minds working. You get their creativity started. And the conversation changes from that point. That classroom cannot be the same for that particular day. If the next day she comes with something different, or the next day you could see a child even coming with something different and say, oh, I found or this, I saw this picture recently on the internet, black apple. Before I saw the video, I didn't know there were black apples. I didn't know they existed. I knew there were black hens and black eggs and all of that. I knew about that, but I didn't know there were black apples. And maybe because the teacher has come in pink hair, the next day you could have one of the children come in with a black apple. And we realize that our conversation just changes from, we're no longer focusing on, oh, the sector is underfunded. Yes, it's underfunded, but we're focusing on stuff like that because we're still staying in the mundane. We're not we're not launching out there. We're not being all that we can be. We're not pushing the limits. Pushing the limits doesn't mean that it has to be negative, but saying, oh, we have reached this wall. Can we pull down this wall and extend the room a little more? Can we take out the door or maybe take out the window and push a little more because we want to make more room? So I think the more the more we hit on this point, the more we we give ourselves the permission to be, then our conversation will begin to change. Thank you.
Well, it's an interesting one. If you just join us, this is the Good Money Education Show, the weekend special, and we are speaking on where is Adam's apple. And we're not looking for a physical fruit, just in case you're already on the search. Don't make it a good or ultimate search, or make it don't make it a reality show. We're just trying to make simple and the principle of us being able to actually decide and decipher the issue of having our voices heard. And I really like to say a little bit from what Finn has mentioned, that sometimes people use the issue of underfunding of the education sector. And it's a true statement. It's not fully funded, it's underfunded. But I just wanted to cause a little bit of trouble with that statement. So when we talk about a sector that is underfunded, it simply says that we can look at it also from the angle that we think underfunding also means just because of money. And sometimes I would tell people to do something even with the little they have. The problem is that the sector is underfunded. We are not funding the sector with money. We are not funding the sector with ideas. Because if you are not funded with ideas, funding is you not just looking at it from money. Cannot be, you can be underfunded from smart people or with smartness, you know. So there are many things, but anyway, that was just trying to make trouble out of that statement. So now let's take this a step further. And I know it's an independence weekend, so we don't want to keep people so much on online so they can have a long weekend sleep or get to enjoy themselves. We've talked about knowing the audience and all that. But then, of course, we know that there are other things when it comes to where is Adam's apple. You know, I feel that we need to look at it from the angle of the direction. So the direction, the channel, and of course, you know, the change being the subject matter of this voice, you know, where do we get to help people, you know, channel their voices? What medium are we to leverage on and to put to use? And what change should this voice propel in this situation we find ourselves?
Okay, when we say what channels, I would say start with the channel that is closest to you. Don't bother start looking for an interview on radio, an interview on TV, or having a big event where my target is to have 1,000 people attend. You can grow to that point. And if you already have that point as a leverage to launch out, why not? But for channeling, it's better to just start from what is most accessible to you. So one thing that is most accessible to all of us, or that almost everybody has, is the internet, which I believe is a huge blessing if only people channel it right. There are so many people who have podcasts. There are people who do live sessions, and what I don't need, all I need to do is do some publicity, tell my friends I'm going to be live, or maybe go live with somebody that also has many followers, so that they see it. Our voices can be channeled from write pieces, publish your pieces online. You don't really, the days where we had to be chasing after hard copy newspapers are over. The days where you need to go to a newspaper house to pick, all of those things are over. So for now, I do not believe that anybody has the challenge of a channel to amplify their voices. And now that we know the channels are there, we know you can access the channel easily. What should you be saying? What what should people be hearing from your voice? We should be saying uh, we should be saying the things that we should be hitting points, the main points. We should be seriously working at being change agents, not just well, yeah, because I have a voice now, I want to push my agenda. What I want to do is to take over the Good Morning Education Show. So I have a platform, I have a channel, and then I'm pushing that agenda. That is not what we should be doing with our channels. What we should be doing with our channels is, look, I know I'm good at maybe a particular subject, and I can come up with teaching aids for that subject. So I share what I have. I share it with my audience, who are able to also transmit it to other people who need it. Before you know what is happening, what does it take to trend? It doesn't take too much to trend. Before you know what is happening, that is out there. Many people are hearing about it. They're listening to it. They're contacting you. They're, those things are. That's when you're engaging your voice responsibly. So I would just say that once people get a hold of their channel or their channels, then there is a call on them. There is an expectation on them to now use their voices right. Get out of the complaining zone. Get out of team always negative, team always antagonistic, team always blaming the government, team always blaming management, and begin to profess solutions. Who knows? One of those people who may be in a better position to bring about change may just hear your voice, and then they're able to implement those things that you put out there. So put out solution with your voice. Put out awareness with your voice. If what your voice is to do, or if what your voice does is more of what they call that thing now, advocacy, if it's more of whatever it is, put out your voice and let it count. And please, yes, just let it count. Thank you.
All right. So if people are hearing and people are seeing and people are getting, and I'm sure if you're just wondering who just spoke, that is Folo Falodun on the Good Morning Education Show. And she's been talking about what she feels to be the direction for anyone trying to identify how to find their voice. I think that one of the key ways to do so is to be able to understand where to channel it and to do what they can with what they have, where they can, and when they can. And once that is being able to get to do that, and then you begin to chart your direction, and then from direction you begin to specify the kind of changes we need to, and which really speaks to us. I think the best thing to do is to ask this question. Probably might be our last question. Um, Many people out there who feel they have something to say, or they have something to say using their skills. They have something to say using their giftings, their expression, their exposure, and their experiences. You know, I would like you to speak to them, particularly how do they get rid of the voices in their head that says they're not enough, and how can they get to a point where they need to understand that they need to translate it from being something nice to something that is a must. Over to you.
Yeah, many times there are those voices in our heads that tell us you're not good enough, or nobody wants to listen to you, nobody wants to hear you, you don't have the message. And for these people, I would say purge yourself. Just purge yourself of the mistakes of the past. Purge yourself of there's certain things even in your past that you have no control over. The family you were born into, you have no control over it. The environment you grew up in, to a large extent, you didn't have control over it up until maybe some points in life. You didn't have control over it. And these are the things that make up our experiences in life. So purge yourself of the blame. Don't blame yourself for the things that have happened to you, and sieve those experiences. It's not everything that happens to you that you put out there. It's not everything that happens to you that happens because somebody needs it. Some are just meant for you. they're your own personal archive. You don't put it out there. But when you have had experience that with training, maybe with formal training or informal training, whichever one, you've been able to now fine tune it, and you are in a place where you can speak to situations. You can speak to say, look, if somebody is saying, like I was talking to somebody recently and I mentioned cranberry juice, and the person said, why would you say cranberry juice? I could identify with what he was saying because I have taken cranberry juice before. So there are certain things there are certain solutions that we provide or that we prefer, that the experiences we have had contributes to us being able to say, look, I have tried this before. It will certainly work. I have seen it work with different people. But then there are some experiences we really don't need to put out there. So sieve, once you purge, sift your experiences. Pick out the ones that really are you need to put out there. And you said there was something else you said. I can't remember what the other part of it was now.
Well, I think you really touched on this, because a lot of people that are doubting themselves, will pick it from that angle. A very critical point that touches everything is that there's a lot of purging that needs to take place, and people must understand that it is actually their own responsibility to do that purging. Some things can be done on your behalf, but definitely there are things you will have to do by yourself, you know. And there's a lot we can talk about on Adam's apple. Moving away from our voice, we talk about rightness and pursuing it, and we'll talk about so many things. But because of time, I would like us to draw curtains on the show at this point today. I would like to thank everyone for joining and being a part of the show today. I'd like to say thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Smart, Olga, that's joined us. Been a long time. Thank you for joining. I'd like to say thank you to Wisdom Ivani. I think Mr. Smart is a bell of blessing, actually. Yes, been a long time. Thank you for joining us. And to all those who catch the replay, thank you for joining us. Those who did mention their names, who are watching secretly and silently, we also say thank you very much. And of course, thank you to Feinfolu, who seemed to feel that she was on the hot seat today. Thank you for being on the show. And of course, thank you to everyone. And we'll be here tomorrow, but this time around we'll be here 5 p.m. You don't want to miss our conversation tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a great one. It's going to be an interesting one, and it's going to be a fantastic one. But until then, remember, we wish you the best of the day. And as we sign off, remember this. Want to go, V? It's always
a great day on a great morning
great
on
day.
the Good Morning
Education
Education Show.
Yes, bye everyone. Bye.